has taken a moment to paint yet another picture of the kingdom. He is saying, but I believe it's going to be good for my soul. 3 Sundays ago, I started a series called Renewed Soul. One thing I am convinced of is that we are tired of our souls being so tired. It is going to take more than few sermons to deal with our soul care, because we need to do something to take better care of our souls. That reminds me of some strange conversations I had over the last couple of years with people who felt guilty and wanted to confess their guilt to me as a pastor. Now, if you have a pastoral heart, people confess things they feel guilty about. But here's what was unusual. I have had few conversations where people said, "Pastor, I feel guilty for having pleasant memories of what my life was like during the pandemic. When the whole world slowed down, my physical and mental health improved. Some of my closest relationships got better because we spent more time together. My faith even got stronger." Nobody said the pandemic was a good thing. Everybody understands it was a season of great loss. Nobody said, "I hope we go through another one." But they felt guilty while everyone else was thinking, when are we going to go back to the way things were? They said, "Pastor, I was thinking, do I want to go back to the way things were?" I think I understand, because I will confess that I never want to live through years like 2020 and 2021 again. At the same time, when the whole world shut down, my wife Tara and I rediscovered the joy of taking a long time together in the church, figuring out, one of the things we were figuring out was technology. And then we took time to pray for us as a church, and just talking to each other and enjoying just Tara and me. We rediscovered our joy of spending time as a family and enjoying having long, unrushed meals, because there was no place to hurry and get to except on Zoom in your PJs. In 2019, the Barna Group released results of a survey that recorded the lowest levels of happiness in our country in their 70-plus years of researching well-being. It is not well with our souls. Throughout this series, I have contended it is not just a season we are going through. We have normalized a way of doing life in the outer world that is proving toxic to our inner world. One way we could do more to bless our soul is to do less. 3 weeks ago, I asked you, are you ready to get well do what it takes to take care of our soul. Last week, I asked, are you ready to chill and find some way to embrace God's Sabbath principle? Today, I'm going to ask, are you ready to get still? Because after months of reflecting and talking to people about their souls, I am convinced a soul cannot heal until it gets still. That we must listen to the Creator who said in Psalm 46, "Be still and know that I am God." So in 1956, a pilot named Thomas Akers got into his F-11 Tiger jet off to the coast of Long Island iced tea. No, Long Island. My bad. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about. It's okay. And those all you got it, let's go out. Just kidding. So he flew out over the Atlantic, ascended to 20,000 feet, and fired his 420 millimeters cannons, 7 rounds in 4 seconds. Then he descended to 13,000 feet, and something hit his plane, knocking out his left engine. Fortunately, he was able to crash land and escape his burning jet with only a few broken bones. He thought he had hit a big bird. He found out it had been his own ammo. As he descended, he got ahead, and what he fired, and it hit him. The Navy said this is 1 in a million chance. In 1973, pilot Pete Purvis got into his F-14 Tomcat off the coast of California and fired a missile. I know there's 2 ways of saying that missile. It's missile if you're coming from the British, okay? And I think we have learned from the British, right? English? So it is missile or missile? Missile. Okay? It's missile. Just to make you feel good, missile. Anyway, so hitting his jet. It was a dummy missile, fortunately, but the damage of the impact caused his plane to crash, and he had to eject to save himself. Just a few years ago, the same thing happened in Netherlands. Get this. We are building fighter planes that go so fast, they put themselves at risk. Did I just describe your life? Would your soul appreciate if you would go on a fast from going so fast? In my lifetime, I think the greatest writer and thinker on the subject of discipleship is a man named Dallas Willard. He mentored a popular preacher named John Ortberg, who said, "Dallas, I really do want to be more like Jesus, but I keep getting frustrated. What is the one thing I can concentrate on and begin to do that would help me to be more like Jesus. Dallas Willard said, you must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. John said, that's a good idea. I need to slow down so I can do the one thing I need to do. What's that one thing? Dallas said, no, John, that is the one thing. To be more like Jesus, you must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. Most of you have read one, if not all four, of the Gospels, the biographies of Jesus' life. Can you think of one instance in the Gospels where Jesus was in a hurry? Where he ever said to anybody, I'm sorry, I don't have time for you right now. My schedule is too cramped. Jesus lived unrushed on the outside because he lived unrushed on the inside. I'm absolutely convinced about, after much of reflecting on how we can take better care of our souls, a soul cannot heal until it gets still. A soul cannot heal until it gets still. Your life is the product of your lifestyle. I believe that there is still hope for your soul if you are willing to be still, willing to still your soul. Friends, family, church, I will be honest, this will be the least popular of the 4 messages I give about soul care. Not because you are going to disagree with me, because you are going to agree that what I am going to suggest is going to be very, very, very hard to do. And I'm talking and preaching to myself. Here's the first thing we must do. Slow down the exhausting pace of your life. The only solution for an unsustainable pace, are you ready? Is a sustainable pace. But we live in a culture that says, if you are not busy, then you must not be important. In fact, in our current climate, the word slow has become a pejorative word. The Wi-Fi around here is so slow. By the way, I agree with that. The service at this restaurant is so slow. The traffic is so slow. If you are from Lagos, you might completely disagree with that statement. You say, Pastor, have you been to Lagos? And my response is, no. You can take me to Lagos. You can pay for my flight and take me, and that could be my mission trip, right? To go on Lagos and see this traffic jam. So we use the word slow now as a cuss word. We don't have time for slow because we have more things we must do. We live with this constant sense of time famine. Yet, if you suggest to anybody, here's what you could do. You could slow down and eliminate some of those commitments in your schedule. They look at you like, You have asked them to take a vow of poverty. Friends, family, church, God has given us two things that are precious that we must steward well: our money and our time. Here's what I know, and none of you would counsel anybody to steward their money the way many of us steward our time. You have got young adults, kids, they are making budget, okay? You look at their budget, and there is a file or a side over here with some money in it. What is that? Savings. We want some margin. Margin? You don't need to save, buddy. You don't need to save. You need to spend every single dollar you get as soon as you get it. You would never tell anybody to steward their money like many of us are managing our time, do we? I agree with Corrie ten Boom. She said, if devil cannot make you sin, he will make you busy. If the devil cannot make you sin, he will make you busy from even stopping worship Jesus. Make you busy. Where were you? I was busy. What were you doing? I was busy. What? I was busy. The price we pay for our full schedules is empty souls. By the way, that's why your vacation isn't working. You wanted the last few years, you wanted to go on vacation. You come back just as tired as when you left. As podcaster and author Carey Nieuwhof says, time off will not fix the problem, and the problem is the way you spend time on. You can't bust it and hustle for 50 weeks a year and then go to a beach for 1 week and then your soul is going to be well. There is something lurking underneath that's even darker. I believe our exhausting pace of life indicates a lack of confidence in the sovereignty and the provision of God. That's what Jesus said. That's what Jesus said in his famous sermon. He said, I get why pagans are always running. What are we going to eat? What are we going to drink? What about tomorrow? I am so afraid. I get it. I get it. They don't know God, but you do. So start living like you know God. You know, he takes care of lilies and he takes care of the birds. So why do you run just as hard as pagans do? If God is not on the throne, or if God doesn't care about us, then you better get up early tomorrow and get after it, because it all depends on you. But if we slow down and remember that God is great and God is good, then maybe we could slow down. Our kids could slow down. Our families could slow down. Listen to the psalmist in chapter 62. He says, yes, my soul find rest in God. Now, why can't he let his soul rest in God. Keep reading. My hope comes from him. Truly, he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will not be shaken. My salvation and my honor depend on God. He is my mighty rock, my refuge. Trust him at all times. You people, pour out your hearts to him, for God is our refuge. Friends, family, church, you will hear what you hear what the psalmist is saying. My soul can rest because God is good, and my salvation and my honor depend on him. The solution to an over busy life is not more time. It is to slow down and simplify your life around what you really believe about God. For most of us, that is going to mean the hard but necessary task of doing some pruning, because soul care cannot be squeezed into an already rushed life. Theologian N.T. Wright said, "It is only when we slow down our lives that we can catch up to God." Some of us are running so fast. It is only when we slow down our lives that we can catch up to God. I told you this would be hard. It is not complicated, but it is going to be hard to make courageous choices to slow down. But what if you tried it just for a month? What if you fasted just for 1 month from going so fast, and see if your soul would thank you later in life? But if you think that's hard, buckle up. I got one more. We need to slow down the exhausting pace of life, and we need to turn down the noise that is wearing out your soul. Turn down the noise that is wearing out our soul. The Gospels reveal that spending intentional time in silence and solitude was very important to Jesus. Jesus took his own soul care very important. In Luke chapter 5, verse 16, Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Silence, solitude, time with God. Silence, solitude, time with God. These were important to Jesus. By the way, if the Prince of Peace needed a quiet, do you think we don't? Because he was a good shepherd, he would lead his flock to quiet waters too. We see after his disciples returned from one of their busy mission trips, he said in Mark chapter 6, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Silence is important because it creates space where we can just access how is our soul doing. But today, it is possible to live and never have to be without noise. In fact, it is normal. It is our favorite Christmas gift. I don't mean that judgmentally. I am being just honest. How many of us for Christmas gave or received a gift that guaranteed we would never have to be anywhere without noise? So I have to do something as a pastor that for centuries pastors didn't have to do for their churches. For centuries, pastors did not have to tell their churches, you need to find some quiet in your life. A big part of their life was quiet. But today, we have to make space for quiet. Friends, family, church, what I think all the evidence is making very clear. Any successful pursuit of a healthy soul in this culture is going to require an intentional, disciplined digital strategy. Obsession with technology, particularly our smartphones, is the new socially acceptable addiction. I use that word on purpose. What is an addiction? What is an addiction? An addiction is a compulsive behavior in the short term that is undermining your well-being in the long term. We have become addicted to technology, particularly our phones. Our phones. There have been many studies. You are at a restaurant, yeah? You are having a really important conversation and a meal with a dear friend about something that matters. Then you get a vibration in your pocket, or your phone is on the table. They have studied the chemical reaction in our bodies. We just got a dopamine hit, and it feels good. It is difficult for us to not put that friend on hold while we check that phone because that dopamine hit felt good and we want another one. This is why we are touching our phones 1 to 2 million times a year. Our short-term compulsive behavior is to have any profound long-term impact on the health of our souls. Over and over, studies are showing that our obsession with screens have increased our levels of anxiety, depression, obesity, and loss of sleep. We are only beginning to discover what it is doing to teenagers who have known no other world. They were born into it. The levels of anxiety experienced by teenagers are the highest ever recorded. The spike in teenage anxiety can be charted in the year 2007. I don't like this stat. The release of iPhone. Not Android. The release of iPhone. The spike in rise of young teenage girls struggling with body image issues can be correlated to 2011, the release of Instagram. Have you seen the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma? Anybody? A couple of you. You should see it if you haven't. The people that create these technologies will not let their children use them because these technologies will not let their children, because they know what they are doing. They are the tobacco industry of the 1950s. They know what they are selling is harmful, but they are not going to stop because it is so lucrative. But what is it doing to our connectedness? You know, if you have been here, you know my best form of meeting someone is face to face. Then Zoom came in. I still want to see your face. Phone call, yes. All the others, I don't care. Because it's not personal. It's not. So, what it is doing to our connectedness? You see, the lie is that through the social media, I am more connected than ever. But we are actually spending less time in the actual presence with other people than ever before. Robert Putnam put it this way: we used to have friends. Now we watch them, or we watch their curated presentation of themselves. Then what has the monetizing of hate and fear and anger done to our souls? I remind you, we are not the client of these products. We are the product. We are on sale. They are selling our attention, and they want us to stay on. They know the way to keep us engaged the longest is to make us afraid or make us angry. In the end, what does it do to us? Here I am, look at me. I am hardly an expert on anything, but I have phone and an app, so you need to know what I think about everything, and the devil lives in the comment sections. The irony is, many of us agree that our phones and our social media platforms have turned into a problem, but we don't believe we can turn down the noise. Yes, we can. We own screens. They don't own us. But we are gonna have to make some hard choices. So I thought, it is not right for me to preach if I am not going to live it. So months ago, I said, it would be even a year now, I said, well, what are you going to start doing to create an intentional digital strategy? I have made several changes. I used to spend prolonged time on Twitter, now called X. I try to keep up with the Jones and kept checking constantly. I thought it would be positive and encouraging, I have gone for months, year, without checking my Twitter or now X account. I did it for several reasons. Number one, in order to make money, the Twitter app or the X app kept putting people and ideas on my app I never asked to follow in the first place. Number two, there was just too much positive anger on that app. It wasn't good for my soul to read it every day. But I'm going to be really vulnerable right now. I will tell you another reason I would try to tweet or X something I hope would be positive. I could not resist throughout the day checking to see if people liked it. If more people liked it, I felt better about myself. And if fewer people liked it, I didn't feel as good about myself. Why should that matter? If something is true, why should it matter if it is popular? I did not like what looking at likes was doing to my soul. So I don't check my account. I have got to tell you, 6 months later, I don't feel I have missed a thing. And I have got a lot of time back. Friends, family, church, I want to be real clear here. That's my strategy. I'm not telling you what yours need to be. I'm not getting rid of my smartphone, okay, guys? Maybe I should, but honestly, I need that app on there with the maps because I get lost without it. And I like having a Bible with me wherever I go. I'm simply saying, what are you going to do to steward technology in a way that is good for your soul? Are you a disciple of Android or a disciple of Jesus? If you are, then everything about your life comes under His lordship. He is the filter by which you determine how you are going to do or use anything. Let me suggest a filter that you might consider as you make your strategy. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, make it your goal to live a quiet life, minding your own business. It's hard, right, for some of us to mind our own business? Is it? We want to poke into every other person's business and make our souls so tensed up. How many apps will go out of business if more of us tried that? Please understand, though, the goal isn't stillness. That is the means to the goal. The goal for you to have the goal is for you to have a healthy soul. Why? Because your soul is where you commune with God, and God is a talker. He loves to commune, but when our souls are constantly inundated with noise, we lose the space and even the capacity to hear the voice of God. Charles Swindoll, popular pastor, you will even hear on CHVN, said there was a time in his life with young family that he was very busy with his work. Lots of commitments, lots of appointments. It affected the way he was acting around his family. Easily angered, always frustrated, rushing through family meals, the first to get up from the table. He said one night his youngest daughter came and said, Daddy, I want to tell you something that happened to school today. And I promise, pinky promise, I will tell you fast. He said, honey, you don't have to tell me fast. You can tell me slowly. She said, well, then Daddy, listen slowly. Do you want to connect to God? You are going to have to listen slowly. This journey from the life of Jesus will help. Luke chapter 10, verse 38 on. As Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Her sister Mary sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he taught. But Martha was distracted. By the way, she would not have used that word. That's the word the Holy Spirit chose. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner she was preparing. She came to Jesus and said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me. But the Lord said to her, my dear Martha, you are worried and upset all over all these details. There's only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it would not be taken away from her. Could it be that so much of what you call being busy, Jesus might call being distracted? What you give your attention to determines the health of your soul. Jesus said there is only one thing you must absolutely prioritize to give attention to. Here's the thing. I believe most of you really, really love God. That's why you are here. That's why you are listening to me right now, wherever you are. You really do love God. But that doesn't mean you necessarily prioritize making time for God. Do you notice in the Bible, nobody runs with God? A lot of people walk with God, but nobody runs with God, because God will not squeeze into your schedule. Here's what you know about anybody that you really love and want to connect with. Here's what you know. Attention requires intention. Attention requires intention. To give somebody your full attention, you have to want to You have to mean to. You have to plan to. The biggest obstacle to life you have and the life you want is the lifestyle you are living. So, what can you stop doing to live each day more fully aware of God? To hear God say, "Be still and know who I am." What if you took fast from going so fast? I think your soul would thank you. I bet your family and neighbors would too. I would like to close by praying over you